Okay, hello, good day, welcome. Danielle here, and we are going to begin our beginner series. So if you are brand new to yoga, this is a wonderful place to start. So let's get started. Today's practice is going to be 40 minutes long. I'm going to read some stuff to you about, like what is yoga, some tools that you might need, all of that sort of thing. And and then we'll get a little bit of movement happening, and that's it. Okay, 40 minutes. So we'll get started. So what is yoga? Yoga is a vast collection of spiritual techniques and practices aimed at integrating body, mind, and spirit. Of course, the aim is to achieve a state of enlightenment or oneness with the universe. So it's a state of really divine connection. What's normally thought of as yoga in the Western world is really just, it's Hatha yoga, So in the Western world, most of the yoga that we see is Hatha-based yoga, one of the many paths of yoga. So there are many different kinds. The different paths of yoga emphasize different approaches and techniques, but ultimately lead to the same goal of unification and enlightenment. Hatha yoga attains the union of mind, body, spirit through a practice of asanas, so the yoga postures, pranayama, so that's the breathing techniques that we do, mudras, so that's the body gestures, and shatkarmas, which are internal cleansing mechanisms. These physical practices are used to purify the body and cultivate prana, or life force energy. Modern Hatha yoga does not necessarily emphasize many of the esoteric practices that are part of yoga and mostly fixates on the physical aspects. So in the West, we really see a major stripping away of the more spiritual side of the practices, at least in the forefront. So most of what's seen in the West of yoga is based on the asana practice. And of course, regardless of what your goals or intentions are for starting, just doing the yoga poses themselves are a fantastic form of mental and physical exercise. So, you may not have these intentions of enlightenment, and it doesn't matter. Yoga doesn't care, right? The point is to just really get your body moving, get connected to your body and your mind and your spirit all together. Is yoga for you? So, is it something that's going to suit you? Most likely. Yoga is in no way exclusive, and being able to practice yoga on some level, no matter how old you are, your weight, what you do for a living, where you live, what religion you practice, whatever, yoga is accessible for pretty much everybody. There is something you can do, and that's because we, of course, integrate the elements of meditation and breath work in, so you can always do something. If you have a medical condition or a recent injury, it can be challenging to do certain types of yoga, and in some cases it can be dangerous. If you are just recovering from a broken ankle and your ankle is not yet fully healed, and you start doing, one-legged balancing postures on it, well, that might not be the smartest thing to do, but we can always do something, right? So there might be, of course, some poses or breathing techniques or whatever that you might need to avoid for certain periods of time, but that doesn't mean that they don't come back in again. The goal is or one of the main aspects, I should say, is to remember that things are always changing. So your practice is also always changing. Even if you were to do the same 5 postures every single day, it's going to feel different every single day because it's a new day, it's a new experience. So there's really always something that you can do when it comes to yoga. And generally speaking too, there are so many modifications. We use all kinds of tools like bolsters and blankets and blocks, and these types of things can really assist us in our practice, whether we're rehabbing from an injury or not. So where was I here? Here we go. So if you're recovering from an injury or if you're in poor health, of course, I recommend consulting with your physician, maybe before beginning a practice if it's something that's pretty intense. It's always good to check with someone, but generally speaking, the practice is very safe to step into. And in the beginning, let's just like touch on this too. You might feel, like intensity through your core or your muscles or whatever when you're in these new poses, because it's like waking a lot of stuff up on the inside, right? And that's okay. That's like normal, and that's a good thing to experience. But what we don't want to move into is pain, and we don't want, like, especially in the joints, if you're bending into your knee and it starts to feel uncomfortable, like, don't bend into it more. If you're starting to feel pain, we don't want to like push into the pain more. A sharp or intense pain, of course, is usually your body's signal to say like, whoa, back off a little bit. So this is a practice of listening to the body and learning to listen to the body. So what's the best yoga for beginners? Well, we're going to move through some of that stuff very soon. But overall, if you happen to be out of shape or extremely inflexible, I definitely recommend that you start with a gentle practice. And that's what you'll find in the Mai Yoga Tribe online library. Is in the guides section. There's a little, the right at the top, it's therapeutics, and in brackets it will say great for beginners. So of course, aside from this beginner course, those classes are another great component to beginning your yoga practice. It's nice and gentle, and from there it's easier to, build your practice up without putting too much intense pressure on yourself. So I recommend starting with those gentle practices until you have built up strength and flexibility for a more challenging sequence. Makes sense, right? If you happen to be relatively fit and flexible, generally speaking, you should be able to jump right into one of my regular Hatha classes, or just a typical class in the studio in your hometown. Once you're familiar with the basic postures, you can explore vinyasa or a flow class. I suggest avoiding, just in the beginning, Ashtanga, hot Bikram, or even hot yoga, just until you have built up some physical strength and endurance. Again, if you're already like super active and athletic, then you'd likely be fine. But if you're brand new to all this stuff, those other practices might be quite overwhelming at first. It's always best, in my opinion, to just stay on the side of caution, especially in the beginning, and just step in. Let yourself build confidence from a real strong foundational space, and then you can branch out. And of course, the best way to know if yoga is going to be a great choice for you is just to do it. So a few notes, because some of you might be brand spanking new to yoga and you don't even know where to start, though likely you already have a yoga mat. Generally speaking, you want to practice on some sort of sticky yoga mat with some extra props. So the yoga movements that we do, like the postures, the asanas, they require clothes that can stretch and move nice and freely with your body. So that can be whatever suits you. Just make sure it's easy to move in. There's all kinds of yoga gear you can buy these days. So you find what suits you. As long as you're comfortable and you can move with ease in the clothing that you're wearing, it's good to go, okay? Yeah, no need to like invest a whole bunch of money. I should mention that. You don't need anything special clothing wise to practice yoga. There is a lot of variety, but you really don't need anything special for it. As far as the props go though, additional props are awesome. Now, if you're new to yoga and you happen to go to an in-person studio, now they'll have everything provided for you, but you're gonna wanna get your own stuff anyway. So some things that could be helpful: a strap, blocks. I recommend having a couple sets of blocks because cork blocks are really amazing for stability, but sometimes having the foam blocks is really nice when you want something a little bit softer. So if you're using it to lay down on your back, sometimes it's nice to have the cork, the more heavy duty, but other times it's nice to have that softness of the foam. So, you know, you could invest a little bit into this stuff and it would totally be worth it. Like, this stuff is going to last. Bolsters are amazing as well. I definitely recommend getting a high quality one. The ones that, I'm sitting on it right now, but there's that green one in the background there. I've had these ones for over 10 years now, and they're still in amazing shape. Like, they're super firm. These are from Half Moon. I'm sure there's other brands out there that are amazing. I do really like Half Moon stuff. I think their quality is excellent. So it would be a worthwhile investment, that's for sure, if you are venturing into a yoga practice. A nice blanket is always helpful as well. And though you may not use like therapy balls in classes much, they're a really great investment, and rollers for your body as well. So I suggest, just as therapeutics, to get maybe a couple therapy balls and a roller alongside your yoga props that you will use. And of course, you don't have to buy everything right away. You can take your time. If you need to save up and get that stuff, then save up and get the stuff that you really want. You can kind of figure it out by using like a scarf, or even a necktie, or a bathrobe belt. You know, you can use a stack of books. You can use paper towel rolls. You can use pillows from your sofa or from your bed. So there's lots of things. You can use a tennis ball for your therapy ball. There's lots of things you can substitute for very, very low cost until you're ready to make the investment. But I do suggest making the investment, because it's totally going to be worth it. And when you have stuff you like that you've invested in, you're more likely to use it more regularly. So as far as your first yoga practice goes, just do your best and forget the rest. So start with something nice and simple, like what we're going to go through very, very soon today. And just take it easy on yourself. And I mean that more from a mindset point of view. Be forgiving. It can be so intimidating when we learn a new skill, especially if we feel like everybody else is doing way better than we are. But like, this is a practice of getting out of your head. It doesn't matter at all what other people are doing. It doesn't matter what I'm doing. What matters is how you can integrate the awareness into your body, right? We're learning, yes, all these postures together. We're learning these breathing techniques and so on. And of course, it's important to do them correctly, but correctly for you is not correctly for someone else. We all have different bodies, so we're all going to look a little bit different. That's also the beauty of being online, is you're in the comfort of your own home and likely not surrounded by a whole bunch of people, so you really allow yourself to get into yourself. This is a no judgment space. This is a space for you to sincerely explore the inner workings of yourself. Yoga is the journey to the self through the self. And that's what I guide you through. It's that journey inside. It's understanding your anatomy. It's understanding the workings of your nervous system and all of these beautiful internal structures. But let's not get too far into it, because we just want to get into some gentle movement today. So we're almost there, I promise. We'll get started into that soon. So yeah, overall, just be nice to yourself. And know that it's an ongoing practice. It's not something you're just going to get right away. You know, like, this takes years to cultivate, and it's supposed to. It's a lifelong journey. It's a lifestyle. Yeah? And of course, once you feel comfortable with a few basic beginner yoga postures, you can then incorporate those into a sequence and add more challenging postures, so you can make it really easy to build your own practice. And of course, you can always come into yoga school and build things even more. But again, let's just start here, because there are so many components. So of course, how often should you practice yoga? I suggest 3 times a week minimum 3 times a week. And you'll definitely see significant improvements in your flexibility, range of motion, strength, balance, inner peace, overall well-being. And as much as I love a 90-minute practice, and those are available in the Yoga Tribe library. But, you know, and 60 minutes is great. 60 minutes is like, in my opinion, just such a perfect balance of time, but it can be so challenging to have that much time, especially in the beginning, to dedicate to a yoga practice. So especially in the beginning, again, I recommend now shorter and more frequent sessions. So 20 to 45 minutes long. In the Mai Yoga Tribe library, you will notice there's a bunch of 30-minute classes. Those would be perfect. And then you can spread those few hours out over the week a little bit differently. So that can be quite a bit more accessible. That's how I began as well. I would do 30 minutes in the morning and 30 minutes at night. So something like that might really work for you. Now, that's to still see results. If you practice yoga less than that, like less than 3 times a week, you'll still see results. It's still going to be beneficial every single time that you do it, but you'll see smaller improvements over a longer period of time. So just like most things, the more time you can dedicate towards it, the more benefits you're going to receive. So it's really a worthwhile investment of your time and energy. And just a few benefits of practicing yoga, because there are tons. Like, this is a small list, but the benefits are really endless, especially when it comes to the awareness of the mind-body connection and our emotional internal structures. But practicing yoga helps build healthy virtues and good values even, such as discipline, honesty, devotion, self-inquiry, mindfulness, and non-attachment. Yoga empowers you to make conscious choices toward living a more healthy and fulfilling life. It also helps keep your mind healthy and strong, reduces stress and promotes relaxation, helps with getting a better sleep at night, helps immunofunction, helps heal common aches and pains, especially like back pain, increases happiness and well-being, reduces depression, helps you lose weight and change your body shape, improves and maintains the health of muscles, joints, and organs. It prevents conditions like diabetes, heart disease, and autoimmune disorders. It improves flexibility, strength, stamina, mobility, range of motion, balance, and just your overall feeling of connectivity in life. I mean, we can go on, but I'll stop there. And then just finally, how to improve your practice after starting a practice. This is usually where people kind of falter, like, how can I get better at this or that? And as I'm sure you know, the world of information is vast, and there's loads of free information out there, but it's really important to start working with someone so that they can guide you along. So have a teacher you enjoy and ask for guidance. Where do you go next? There are all kinds of ways you can build your practice. Patience, commitment, repetition, and consistency are the keys to developing and progressing in the practice of yoga. And of course, again, after you've found the teacher that you really enjoy, commit to a regular schedule of yoga classes or home practice, whatever is working for you. Increase the length of your practice and the number of days per week you practice. Attend workshops that focus on specific aspects of yoga in more detail, like a beginner course. Journal the effects of your consistent yoga practice. Journal the effects it has on your body, your mind, and your heart. Read, study, go to yoga school, right? You can expand your horizons there. Find sources of inspiration. So this can be through anything. It could be through yoga poses, could be through different meditations, it could be through nature, it could be through your connection through your meditation, right? Make different yoga friends, or join a community just like we have in Mai Yoga Tribe. Make sure that you have some people to share your stuff with. It's nice when there's other people around that are doing the same kind of thing. And then, of course, you can also adopt a more yogic lifestyle, which will be healthy, and it will really just help create even more balance of happiness in your life when you really think about it. And, of course, you'll be doing even more yoga. So, with all that, I think it's time to get some movement happening for about 20 minutes or so, and then that will be it for today. So if you'd like to, you can always take notes on the stuff that I just went over, or if you really want to dive in, like I said, going to yoga school would be the next best thing. You do not have to want to teach. It's not about that. It's about the journey to yourself, through yourself, right? So let's continue. You may want some props. We'll be seated just for a couple minutes, but you still might want to make sure that you're comfortable. Yeah, I suggest that you do. Sitting on a blanket is really awesome support for the hips, even if you don't normally feel like you need the support. Try it out. So this is the first posture that I think every person practicing yoga should know, and this is called Sukasana. It's known as easy pose, and it's just a simple seated position. So you could be on the ground and you can have your legs nice and crossed, but I suggest, like I said, sitting up on the blanket and crossing your legs. So make it feel really easy. Now, if you discover in this position that you have pain in your knees, sit higher. Another thing you can do is use blocks on your outer thighs. So if your knees are way up here, get the blocks and put them just under your outer thigh. And then just let the legs rest down on the blocks, and you can sit tall here. So the ability to sit taller and taller using more support under your hips is going to make it easier on your hips, and eventually you can relax. So you might find that you need to sit on a block. You might find you need to sit on 2 blocks. You might need to sit in a chair and have the ankles crossed. You'll need to figure out what works for you, but that's the point of discovering this practice. So just for a moment, let's pause here in this Sukasana posture, easy pose. And we want to make sure that the hips feel nice and neutral. So you feel your sit bones evenly on the surface that you're seated on. You feel your navel drawing inwards. And we want a tall spine, right? Yoga is awesome for helping us improve our posture. So we need to make sure we can feel the shoulders and collarbones stacked above the hips. Feel some lengthening through the back of your neck, as if someone had a little string attached to the back of your head and they were just gently pulling it up. Just gently, and feel that incredible spaciousness. So this is helping us breathe better already. And that leads me to the next element that is extremely important to adapt, and that is the breath. We want to be able to breathe well. If we can breathe well, we're more likely to move well. Yeah, and when we can move well, we're more likely to feel well. Yeah, and it all just continues to ripple from there. So let's check in with the breathing. Close down through your eyes and just breathe in and out of the nose. You could have your tongue just heavy into your mouth. And if you find you have a really hard time breathing in and out of the nose, bringing the tip of your tongue to the roof of the mouth might help you a little bit as well. Now as we breathe, your eyes are closed, and start to visualize the breath coming in through the nose, moving down through the back of the throat, behind the heart, all the way down into the deepest part of your belly you can find. And on the exhale, the breath wraps in front of the belly and comes back up in front of the heart, through the throat, and out through the nose. And continue to follow the breath. Good. Now notice the hips, notice the legs. Do you feel like you need more support? We're switching out, so bring opposite leg in front. And if you need some support, use it. Maybe you want to have those blocks there. We're here for a couple more minutes as we work on settling into this pose and learning to breathe a little bit more. So Nadi Sodhana is alternate nostril breathing. This is a really popular breath in yoga. And I'd like to teach you this breathing exercise because it's extremely powerful in clearing the mind. And in yoga practice, it's known to clear out the nadis, or the energetic channels that work through the body. I'd like to also think of that as the nervous system. So this is wonderful for nervous system regulation. Very easy to do. We take our index and middle finger and we place it on the center of the forehead. So now we have our thumb and our ring finger and pinky free. Let's start with the left nostril. So bring your right thumb to your right nostril. And inhale through the left nostril. Now close the left nostril with your ring finger and open the right side with your right thumb. Exhale. Inhale through the right. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Exhale through the right. Continue. In through the right. Out through the left. Keep going. Keep going. It might feel tricky at first. And the goal is to not rush through, but to have long, deep breaths in and out of the nose, moving through one nostril at a time. Still sitting tall. If your right arm starts to get sore, actively hug the arm into your body more. Use more strength. And remember, if this is your first time, this might feel like a lot. Let it be. One more round. In through the left side. Out through the right. In through the right. And out through the left. Let the right hand return down and just take a few breaths in and out of both nostrils. Eyes closed. Notice that internal shift. And then blink open the eyes. We'll move nice and easy into our next posture. So tabletop pose or quadruped, hands and knees. So just shifting your props aside, though you might want to have your blanket on the mat underneath your knees. That can be really nice. So we will want to have our knees aligned under the hips and the hands aligned under the shoulders, but you could have your hands wider if you need. Aim to keep your arms long and strong. Now we all have slightly different anatomy, right? So your elbow creases face slightly forwards. They're not all the way forwards, but they're not all the way in. You'll find your sweet spot. But if you can, see if your index fingers can point forwards and align the wrist creases to the front of the mat. And that should help align your arms properly. And then think of squeezing in through your shoulders. And we'll move through cat-cow. So these are pelvic tilts. So we exhale, arch the back up as we draw the pubic bone forward to the sternum. We look between the legs, arch up on that exhale. And then inhale, let the belly dip down. Think of sticking your tail up to the sky, your heart pulls forwards, and you can gaze to the horizon or even slightly up. The arms stay long and strong. And then exhale into your cat pose. Really open up through the spine here. So this is a wonderful movement to start really connecting your breath and your body. Inhale, dip the belly into your cow. Again, notice your hands. If your wrists start to feel sore, grip into your mat more, like really claw into it. Exhale into your cat. Draw the belly in. Your arms are long, big stretch through the spine. Inhale again, dip your belly. Open your heart. Notice that little bit of heat building in the body. Enjoy. And then let's go back to cat pose. One more time, arching up through the back. And then neutral spine. Good. Tuck your toes. And then knees and hips lift up, but in a moment, okay? So first, squeeze your arms. So squeeze, squeeze, squeeze in your table pose. Then lift knees and hips. Send them back. Send the heart toward the shins. Let your head relax between the arms. Press your index fingers into the mat. Bring more weight to the inner side of your hands here. And then your elbow creases are generally going to be facing inwards, but a little shift is totally fine. Again, we have different anatomy. The point is we want to feel our upper arm bones secure in our shoulder sockets. Your knees can be nice and bent. Get the upper body feeling long and strong, and then work on the legs. Feet are about hip distance apart. A little wider is fine. You can lift your heels, press your belly to your thighs, and you should be squeezing your arms gently. Lower your knees down and find child's pose. So bring your bum to your heels. Your knees could go a little wider. Hands could reach forwards. Head relaxes down. You could also grab a block here and let your head relax on the block. Breathe in and out. Maybe rock your head side to side. And then come into stillness. So child's pose is our resting pose. This is a wonderful place to visit anytime you need a break. So throughout any practice you're doing at any time, come to child's pose when you feel you need that rest. Give yourself a moment. So this posture is always available to you. So use it when you need it. Yeah? Okay, so we're almost done here. When you're ready, if you were using your block, just set it aside, and we'll do that downward dog and table one more time. So let's just shift the hips up to stack above the knees into our table pose. Knees below hips, hands below shoulders. Index fingers point forward, wrist creases align with the top of the mat. Now feel your belly button pull into your spine here, and your abs kind of flex in a little bit. Now imagine gripping into the mat with your hand, but especially between your index fingers and thumbs, like you have little pinchers there. Keep your belly drawing in. Now squeeze your arms, tuck your toes. Look between your thumbs, knees and hips lift up. Chest pushes to the shins, downward dog. This is known as Adho, Mukha, Swanasana. Breathing in, breathing out. So just notice how it feels right now this time around, whether it feels really hard or really challenging, or whether it feels great lengthening the spine, and it feels great feeling some strength and awareness through your muscles. Press your hips away so it feels like you're moving your hips away from your armpits, and you're getting a big strengthen and stretch at once. So to stretch properly, we really need to use strength. Flexibility is not from laziness. We want to squeeze. Another breath in. And another breath out. Good. Look to your hands. Notice if your form changed at all in your hands and elbows. Just make a mental note. And then gently bring your knees down to the mat. Bring the knees a little wider. Your toes are untucked. Bum comes down to the heels. Child's pose. Maybe stack your hands or use your block for your forehead to rest. Beautiful. Nice and easy. When you're ready, just start to pick yourself up. And then we'll shift into everybody's favorite pose, which is Savasana. So this is done laying flat down on the back. You could use the support of a bolster behind your knees if you find that you have a lot of tension through your lower back. You could always lay on a blanket as well, or use one as a little bit of a pillow if you have some neck issue. So do what suits you. Ultimately, we'd like to aim to be mostly prop free in our Shavasana. But again, making sure that you're comfortable is more of a priority than that. Your shoulder blades should feel flat underneath you. So we don't want to feel the shoulder blades digging into the mat or anything. They should feel nice and flat. Your feet could be about as wide as the shoulders. See what feels comfortable. And notice, how do your feet relax, right? Does one kind of flop open more than the other one? If you just lift your head up for a second and take a look, just observe. We all have a little difference. My left side is generally more tight than my right, so my left toes don't fall as wide open. And then notice your hips, like, do they feel balanced? Or does the weight of your body lean more to one side or the other? And try to find some balance there. Just do your best. And then again, notice your shoulders and your shoulder blades. Let your arms come down by the sides, about 45 degrees from the body or so. And your neck should feel long here. If you need to, you could always use your hands and pick up your head a little bit, just giving it a little scoop, like that marionette string when we were sitting, reaching up through the back of the head. It's that same action of getting length through the back of the spine and just finding all of that beautiful space. Also open through collarbones, open through the throat, so we're not compressed there. And the breath just moves gently in and out of the nose. So we practice that alternate nostril breathing. And now we're practicing just simple breath in and out of the nose. And try to make it a balanced breath. So balanced breathing is when our inhales and exhales are the same length. So just practice that with your eyes closed. Notice how you're breathing. Notice how you're feeling. And then slowly just bend one leg and then the other. Gently bring the knees into your chest. And then slowly roll over to the right side. And then use your left hand to help you press up and return to your Sukasana. So remembering, if you wanted to sit on a blanket or a prop of any kind, getting comfortable. Beautiful. And that concludes our first session of our beginner course. So a little bit about yoga. We've got a few movements in, built a little bit of heat, made the nervous system a bit happier, so I hope you feel wonderful and calm. And I wish you a wonderful rest of your day. We can bring the palms together in Anjali Mudra as a beautiful gesture of gratitude. Let's breathe all the way in and bring loving gratitude into ourselves. And exhaling, sending that loving gratitude for everyone else. And thank you for our practice today. Namaste. And I hope you feel wonderful and that you learned a little something more about the practice of yoga. Great. And of course, please feel free, enjoy some classes from the Mai Yoga Tribe library. Check out the section on therapeutics that's good for beginners. Or if you feel, check out some of those flow classes and see how you feel. Let me know. I'd love to hear about it. Have a great day, everyone. See you again soon.